Hello, hello. Hey, Mark. Man, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy and I got to be here. You guys have a great show. I was watching the episodes on recent and keep it up, keep going. It's fantastic what you guys are doing.
Well,
I really,
thanks a
really like
lot.
it.
That's fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Thank
it's really
you.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, we're
It's all
trying to be
based on
different.
love.
it's all based on love. Everything is based on love. Yeah, it's true.
Positive vibes only. Positive vibes. That's
Excellent.
our
Yeah.
motto, really.
And you guys all have the best backgrounds, all of you. It's amazing. They all have these super eclectic backgrounds.
Thanks.
It's great.
It's come a long way.
Yeah, we've come a long way. We didn't start that way.
I love it.
But yeah, no, it's coming along. We're proud of what we've done so far, and we're really happy to have you on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's super cool.
Well, I met you back in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think your uncle taught us in high school. He taught us history. History. Is it your uncle that worked at Louis Riel?
Yeah, my uncle's actually he taught there and he was a principal afterwards. Yeah, that was a blessing and a curse. My whole family was in education, my father included, and my uncles were all either principals or teachers, things like that. And since I was in the French system, which is much smaller, it was hard to kind of wiggle out of reputations and things like that. But on a positive note, that was really good education because I got privy to some inside tips, and I never took teachers very not seriously, but I learned that they're just like everybody else, right? My dad would come home and tell us things at night, and I knew that teachers had a certain way of doing things. So yeah, so in Ottawa, I was born in Ottawa. I went to this French school system. I was born into a family of Italian immigrants, like Francesco, I think, probably.
Yep.
And as he knows, that comes with kind of like a dual life. You have your home where you have the old Italian ways of doing things, which are amazing. And you have kind of like this bit more savage side. We used to have picnics in public parks in Ottawa with accordions and people dancing and soccer games and all this crazy stuff. 80 people in a public park you don't see every day. And then you had your kind of Canadian life where you had to kind of navigate in a way that was different, right? You had a different life at home and then when you went to school and things like that. So that was quite interesting. And that was kind of my first kind of dip into it. It's kind of like this kind of like meta way of looking at life, right? Where I kind of go to school and be this one guy and I go home and be this other one. And that was quite interesting. So I lived in Ottawa till I was about 20. And then I moved to Toronto to start my studies in general arts and applied arts. And when I graduated, I moved to Europe. Basically, I just bought a one-way ticket and ended up in Switzerland. And I had this idea of working at the United Nations, and that's what I did. I basically just set my mind to it and kind of visualize. I want to work at this place. I want to make the world a better place. And the mandate really resonated with me at that very formative age of 24, and basically stayed there for about 7 years. And then
That really, really interests me.
Yeah.
What kind of work were you doing for the United Nations?
So I was negotiating contracts for infrastructure projects. So basically, imagine you had a water pump in some dry in Ethiopia or something that needed to be installed and bought. So I would kind of go in there and negotiate the contract and make sure things went well and kind of liaise with the local authorities of the government there, then the funders of the project until the well got dug into the ground, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you usually go on site for these projects?
No, I wasn't allowed because of corruption. Okay. I had the money. Well, I didn't, but I had the ability to transfer. So I wasn't allowed to go on site because these are often places in the world that had some kind of different ways of dealing with money. So I wasn't allowed. So I did everything from Geneva. I used to call it kind of like a control tower with my colleagues. I had this office. We'd be on the phone, and we're dealing with places often that don't have the infrastructure that we do, right? A lot of these places, use fax machines or phone calls only. So it was a different way of working, but a really unique experience. Yeah. Super unique experience.
And like, it sounds so surreal that you worked for the United Nations. Was it hard to get in? Was it difficult or?
Well, okay. I don't know because I applied to a few jobs and I ended up getting an internship with another organization as part of the UN called my Organization for Migration. But then I saw an opening and applied for it. And what I do in these occasions, and I really kind of I try to see myself in the actual thing, right? So I'll just visualize myself working at the United Nations. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Who are my colleagues? What does it feel like? Right. And I'll do this with anything in my life. And I remember that night, one night I was in my room. I had nothing. I was just like, I was living, I had like patio furniture for chairs in my bedroom and stuff. And just kind of said, okay. And I knew that I kind of researched the people who were going to be interviewing me, and I kind of like pictured them giving me the job, and just this whole exercise. And so I went into the interview. I was quite confident. I was young and confident, probably a bit naive, and really kind of spoke from the heart and kind of said what I thought and this and that. And they kind of, and they said, okay, this kid's kind of, he's speaking from the heart, I guess. And they gave me the job, and it was intimidating. It was a panel. There's a panel interview. Now I'm going down a whole lane now. Panel interview, and it was they see the Swiss Alps in the background, like it's a whole thing. But yeah, I remember being really happy when I got the job.
I love the idea of
Mhm.
visualization. That you
Yeah,
visualized it.
yeah,
And
it's
if
super
cool.
important.
the future works.
Yeah, it does. I've done it many times, different projects
same.
and music and all kinds of stuff. For me, it's been kind of like a way of life. Like if you want something really, I mean, you have to be reasonable. I'm not gonna play for the Harlem Globetrotters, right? But you can,
Mhm.
if you visualize something that you know you can do, and we all know we can do, right? We have a voice inside that tells you what you can do. And then if
Yeah.
you really listen to it and focus on it, and you'll get it, right? It'll happen. Yeah, I was working at the UN, and my background is a lot in the arts, so I did a lot of music and theater and writing and things like that. And after 7 years at the UN, I kind of woke up one day and said, "What the hell am I doing in Geneva? Like, it's not." I was publishing writing on the side, I was playing music and this and that. So I dropped the job. I stopped and I said, I want to pursue a career in writing. I want to write, fiction and things like that. And so a funny thing happened is that when I quit the job, I got really, really sick. I got really, really ill. And I had gotten accepted at Oxford in creative writing and to do an MFA. And so I started that course and I got super, super sick. So I had to go back to Canada and I go back to my parents' house basically, which is a really kind of a trip. But what happened there is that I ended up focusing on my writing on the living as an Italian in suburbs of Canada. All my fiction kind of came from there afterwards. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. And instead of becoming a fiction writer, I became kind of more of a writer who writes as an experience. It's kind of like something to go deep and to kind of figure things out, right? And my philosophy just kind of became that writing has no real purpose, but just to write. Afterwards, it can become a novel or a newsletter or whatever. LinkedIn post doesn't matter, but you write first and foremost just to discover and explore, and then things come from there. So yeah, so after the United Nations, I went to Oxford for 2 years. Um, Also, a unique place, a very interesting place to be. I always say Oxford is interesting because you'll be sitting at a cafe reading a book, and somebody will sit down and say, "Oh, I did my PhD thesis on that writer." You're like, "Holy shit, really? Okay, so let's have a chat, right?" So it was really, yeah, it was really interesting.
Wow.
So yeah, I spent 2 years there, and then ended up in different roles, and ended up writing some poetry, some short fiction, things like that. Uh, and uh, and yeah, that was the Oxford experience.
And then where'd you go from there?
Hmm?
Where did you go from there?
Yeah, so after Oxford, I tried getting back to Canada, but that wasn't happening. So I stayed in Europe and ended up living in Italy for a while, ended up living in Germany for a while, and then finally I came to Barcelona.
Hmm.
And yeah, something else I'd like to say before that though is when I was when I was sick, actually I was Oxford. I had to kind of like travel around and go back and forth. And one of the things I did is that at some point nobody knew what was wrong with me. I had this immune thing. The doctors couldn't figure it out. I was going all over the place, and so it was quite frustrating, but also a very unique experience. I ended up. My mom said, "Why don't you go to an ashram and see if you can do something?" I was like, "Come on, give me a break." She said, "No, no, no, go to an ashram and see if you can just kind of heal yourself." Sure, why not? So I went to an ashram in the West Indies for about a month, and then what happened there is I kind of fell in love with the music. Like I had this before smartphones were like super popular. I had this recorder I'd always have with me, just recorded voices, and sounds, and things like that. And ended up hearing people like as they were washing dishes, they'd be singing, and locals would be singing on this in the street. I just kind of like just record them here and there. And then on the last day I was there, for some reason I said to people, I said, I'm gonna make an album out of these songs one day. And they're like, okay. And I left, and I kind of had it at the back of my head for a while. And it wasn't until I went to Barcelona afterwards that I met my current partner one day, and we made an album out of these songs. turned out to be our first album. So after the Oxford, I went to Barcelona, but in between there was this kind of like sandwiched experience that kind of veered me off in a different way, right? And it started a kind of a music career based on this international music that we made, this world music we made with kind of Indian undertones. Yeah, band's called Mantranima, Mantranima. It means in Spanish, it means soul and mantra. It's the same. Mantra is Indian words, and also on YouTube. We have a couple of videos there. And the first album on YouTube. So we wrote this in Hornby Island. It was like super dark and stormy and no electricity and very bit of a haunting area.
Nice, man. He's got a great voice.
That partner.
This is your partner, Esther?
Yeah, the singer.
Wow.
Singer, actress.
Is she speaking in Spanish?
She's speaking it's a Sanskrit, just Indian stuff.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From Canada, like Aboriginal music.
No, it's from India. Like it's
From
no,
India.
India. Yeah. It's a whole world music mix kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Where did world music start? Where did that come from?
I think Paul Simon had a big hand to play in it. I'm from a very musical family. Like my uncle owned a music store in Ottawa called Dominic's Music. You might remember it.
I remember.
And yeah, that was my uncle's store.
Huh.
So he had a chain of
Cool.
stores. He had a chain of stores in schools. So we were kind of like cradled into this musical scene, right? Where we had all these instruments at our disposal. We had a school, and we used to kind of like, hey, I want to learn the bass, so we just borrow a bass or a sax or whatever. So we had that on us. It was kind of like the family business, music, right? And so often the third generation won't go into the family business. They kind of shun it. So it's like, I'm not going to go into music. I'm playing music, but I'm just going to like let it to the side. Until this happened, and I said, I got to do this album. Like, this is really cool. I don't think, and I really got into it. So, so a musical family, and I think I forgot your question. What were we talking about here?
Well, I remember like you played like a bunch of instruments. That's what I remember from
Yeah, right.
getting to know you. Is that you played guitar, you played piano, you
Yeah,
played
exactly. Yeah,
sax? Did you play sax?
yeah. I played sax in high
I
school.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I studied at the conservatory when I was a kid, piano, and then from the piano, then you can learn a lot. If you play piano, usually you can kind of branch out. So I used to play guitar and sax and bass
Yeah.
and drums and a bunch of stuff, which have been
Cool.
useful. Yeah, it's been useful, and yeah, so yeah, musical family, and then I discovered this kind of international music. I really liked it, and we ended up putting a little band together and started doing little tours in France and Spain and things like that. And the thing is that at the time I was working in Barcelona. I started a career. I was writing for like PR firms and I was writing for marketing and things like that. So I had my feet in both worlds. And on weekends we'd play yoga retreats and all this kind of like very ceremonial kind of stuff. And then during the week I'd go and manage a team in a startup, which was fine, but also kind of weird, right?
Right.
Until one day we had a tour planned for Canada, just a little tour on the West Coast. And so we flew to Canada in 2018, and we had a gig at an island on the West Coast called Hornby Island. I'd never heard of it. It's in the Gulf Islands. You have like Vancouver Island, all these little islands.
Right.
Right? And we went there. We played our gig, and we were like, "This is a pretty cool
Beautiful.
place." Yeah, it's amazing. It was really cool, and the people were really interesting. Everybody had kind of like a glimmer in their eye, and the nature was beautiful, and we just kind of clicked with the place. And then we flew back to Barcelona, and Esther and I looked at each other like, something's not right. Like this is kind of weird. And so then a few months later, we just sold everything. We went back, like with our 4-year-old daughter. We just went back and moved to this island. Like it's one of the craziest things we ever did, and loved it.
Where are you, wild little girl of mine? Where did you go for so long? Come back to my side and shine. Come back to my side. Bring your light along. Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om. Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om. Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om. Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om.
When did you depart, my fearless child inside? It feels like we never even tried. When did you teach yourself to hide your stare? Now open up your soul and hold me there. Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om. Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om. Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om. Om Shiva, Om Shiva, Om.
Yeah, music for me is it's a kind of a personal thing. It's really in my family there aren't a lot of songwriters. A lot of my uncles and stuff would play more folk music, Italian music, things like that, which I would also play with my dad. I'd back him up and things like that. But I had a kind of a trail. I didn't have many references in terms of people who wrote music in my family. So I was always kind of like and Francesca, from being in a very tight Italian family, when you break out a little bit, it's kind of it's difficult. Nobody wants to stick out of a group, right? It's human. It's just anthropology. You don't want to stick out from the clan.
Yeah.
So that was really tricky. But this going to the ashram was a good excuse, right? Because I had this really super unique sound and way of singing, and this whole kind of like very, very unique album to put out. So that was an excuse to kind of get going with that. I mean, I'd written songs before, but it was kind of more folk or more kind of traditional things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting. And also to play this kind of music, what was also nice is that it'd be so like we harmonize our voices when we play, and this and that, and people really get touched, and they'd hug us, and it's such a different vibe than playing in a bar where people are drinking and smoking and all that, right? Like when you play, everybody kind of hugs you at the end, and everybody kind of wants to you chat, and you do house concerts, like a whole other vibe. Like it's really kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the band, and we had a tour planned in 2020. We released in 2019. We released a second album called Trees and Shadows. You can see it there. It's the one with the painted trees. And then we had a tour planned in 2020 on the west coast of Canada. We had a caravan bought. We were going to homeschool our kid. We had a really nice thing planned, and then the pandemic started, and that got canned. And then we had a pandemic baby, a surprise pandemic baby, which kind of put a a bit of a pause in the music career. So now our youngest one is 4. We still play in the house and stuff. But we're gonna come back with something pretty soon.
This was 2018, and we were running to catch the train, speeding to pick up our daughter, and just missing lots of important school events. So we had this crazy idea. There's a small island on the Pacific coast of Canada with 900 people and 1 general store, 2 ferries away from the nearest town. And long story short, we sold everything, packed our bags, and left. Hornby Island is a place where you might see more eagles than people. And the only loud neighbors are the sea lions on the edge of the shore. So it was beautiful, wild and mysterious. But the change was difficult at first. Non-stop rain tapping on the roof, a wood stove going full blast, and our daughter wondering where her friends went. So we kept wondering whether we made a huge mistake. But it was actually that early phase that was planting the seeds for our most personal project to date.
So while we were on the island, we asked ourselves, how can we express this transformation in a musical form? The answer was a new album and a new sound for the new us. We made 9 songs that reflect our rewilding and connection with ourselves, with nature, and with the cycles of nature. The album is a mix of mantras, of English and Catalan lyrics, and it's basically electric guitar, found sounds from the island, and our vocal harmonies. For us, it feels like a sacred album for these disconnected times.
A music project is a big endeavor. After the creative process, it means recording, promoting, touring, in order to reach more people, right? So now that we've walked a part of the journey, we need support, external support, to keep it going. We feel that this album is a big turning point for us, and that with it, we'd like to take this rewilding mission as far as we can, really. Because we believe that the world needs more voices that remind us of who we are, that bring out that humanity that connects us to each other.
Marc, I want to hear more about you selling everything and just going to go live in an island.
Yeah.
And like, what motivated you to do that? And it's very, Salinger. You must love literature and you must know authors because that's what you wanted to do or still do. Did that play any influence on you?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Salinger was kind of a recluse. Like, I think everybody has this kind of fantasy of just seeing what would happen. You just ditched everything and left. I think everybody kind of has that fantasy a little bit. And we, at the time we left, my partner had a busy job as well. She's an actress, and she was leading a theater department in a school. I was leading a creative team in a startup, and we just were always kind of running around, just in that. And we wanted to be more, and we were both artists. We wanted to be more in the arts. We wanted to be more what we wanted to do. And we just said, you know what, let's do it. And we went to this island, and kind of, in life, sometimes things just line up perfectly, and it's just, you have to keep going with you used to have all these green lights that just keep going. So we just keep going. I mean, green light, green light, green light. So we started getting all these green lights, and we wanted just a simpler life too. And so we went to this island and we played music there, and it was just beautiful. The weather was perfect. It was beautiful beaches. Everybody was kind of into the arts. There was a free store where you just go and get what you want, leave what you want, like all this. It was like a utopia, right? And then we came back to Barcelona. We sold everything. We left, and then reality hit, of course, right? It was super rainy. It was windy. It was cold as hell.
Yeah.
It was, and we were like, "What? What did we just do?" Our kid is sad, got no friends, just uprooted a 4-year-old. We don't
Yeah.
know what to do there. You know, it's not Spain. There's nothing on the beach. There's no music. There's no tapas. It's just a beach with trees and sand and wind, and a bunch of people we didn't know. You know, a very tight knit community. There's only 800 people on this island, so all the people, those people knew each
Wow.
other. And we'd walk into the bakery, and people would go like, "That's the people from Barcelona," you know, like. And so
They're not used to outsiders.
yeah, not well in the summer, but not used to people just moving out of nowhere, right? So that was,
Yeah.
but I mean, but we got a house, and then
That's cool though, man.
yeah, it was
Super
great.
cool.
It was
You were
cool.
there. How many years were you there?
3
You
years,
stayed there
yeah, total. 3 years total.
3 years ago.
Yeah, and what that did is that gave us that started a whole new way of living. Just another experience that just changed my life completely. It changed my life because it taught us kind of how to live simply. It taught us how to like live off the land, like really off the land, off the rain, off the, you know, and you go through. I mean, especially that island in November. That island was really something else. You had windstorms. You lost electricity for days in a row. You know, it was dark. Nobody talked to each other. It was just really like, you know, we'd have moments we just cry, and it's really intense. We had no, you know, we'd watch we had a fireplace at night. That was entertainment. You know, like we had a beautiful house. Don't get me wrong, but it was really learning how to live a very, very simple life.
I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
everything's geared about consumerism, right? And then
Yeah.
what you just said, it's like, yeah, you know, classic case of simple, good experiences, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and we all want to strive towards that. Like, I'd rather spend more money on something that's useful than cheap money for something that's going to sit on on the counter and do nothing, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's a great insight. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of strives for that. The thing is, it's a learning. Like it's hard. Like, you know, you have to learn how to do with little and kind of, and that were the first droplets of what we're living now, right? That's where we learned how to, like, we were harvesting rainwater, like, you know, and not in my hands, but I mean, we had a whole system to do it. But you know, like, you know, you got to manage the water and kind of like, you know,
everybody wants to live off grid, but they don't know. Like, it's so
not
much
easy.
work.
It's a lot of work.
It's
like
super hard, right?
But the thing is, though, is that when you're chopping wood or when you're emptying compost, it's hard to have superfluous thoughts. Like you're in your task, right? Like your mind is sharp as a needle because you're really in what you're doing. There's a purpose, there's a reason, you're aligned with it, and then what happens is you just start getting creative because you get in touch with something much deeper than being around noise all the time, or like it's very interesting. It's a very interesting process. What happens? Yeah.
Well, you got unplugged, right? You got unplugged.
Yeah.
So you really, it's like all the distraction, like you got the TV, football game, your phone is ringing, you got your neighbors coming for this. When you're like off grid like that, or like when you have, like you said, you have to concentrate to do your task of cutting the wood, your body changes and your mind changes.
Yeah.
You know, it gets to know each other and talk to each other. And
it's because we're programmed to be in the woods. That's why.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's like we get into like our best selves, probably, you know?
Yeah.
Like the more we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. I think and our relationship changed too with me and Esther. We became, you know, we changed our relationship. We got better and as a family too, you know, you gotta like you gotta do things that you didn't do before. You have to find things to do and you just kind of simplify and enjoy other things, right? So it was a really, really unique experience.
Yeah.
And then we wrote about it, wrote a book about it. We wrote an album, and but it wasn't easy at all. I mean, we really had a rough time at first, and it was really, really tough. Especially living in a beautiful sunny place like we did, right? Like Barcelona is just, you know, it's beautiful. We're super creative beings, you know. We're creative, we're cooperative, we're empathetic, and this stuff comes out when you're in a situation without all the mess of distractions around us, you know. Yeah.
Would you say that that's the catalyst that propelled you to Muntanya, Màgica?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. We went. So after that experience, we came back to Spain. We weren't supposed to come back, but what happened is that during the pandemic, a lot of people discovered this island and moved there. So prices went up, rent was almost impossible. High-speed internet arrived, so people started working remotely. So we kind of got pushed out, and we didn't know we were devastated. We didn't know what to do. So we said, after trying, and then life taught us that we tried to buy houses. We tried to move. We moved. Went to the East Coast. We lived in Wakefield for a while, and nothing was working. Nothing was working. We couldn't find. We'd rent something. We'd get kicked out. Nothing was working. So we said, you know what? We got to go back to Spain. So we came back to Spain, the 4 of us, and lived in our apartment, and just started saying, let's try and find a place here. And then about a year and a half ago, we found a property. And we fell in love with it. It needed a lot of work, still does, and decided to open our own center here where people can come and disconnect. And we host. So we're going to host retreats here and different kind of retreats and things like that to help people kind of get in touch again with that sense of sense of who they are, and go back into their lives a little bit more connected, a little bit more relaxed, So yeah, absolutely, that was a huge catalyst that changed our life.
Isn't Spain, like, in general, more laid back than Canada? So it must have been a nice change in a way. How did you find it with going back? Like, I don't know. I've been away for over 10 years, so I'm disconnected now.
Yeah, I mean, Spain is relaxed in a certain way. It's very much well, I mean, every country has a bit of everything. But if I had to generalize, so Spain is it's a lot of fun in the sun, kind of relaxed, which is fine. You go to the beach, have a drink, and this and that, and it's a very relaxed life. So it's very hot here, and people in the heat they relax. But we're talking more about a relaxation of away from distractions of everyday life. Right? We live in the middle of the forest again, and we're really out in the
mountains. I saw, right?
We're in the mountains. Yeah, we're in the mountains. Yeah, and just the road here. People say gets them out of their routine, right? Like, whoa, people arrive a little bit spooked out sometimes, right? Like. It's
Spain is beautiful, man. Like,
it's a beautiful country. It's very varied, it's close to Africa, also part of Europe, so it's got a lot of variety. Yeah. Wow. So it's definitely that's the website. Yeah, so that's
the website. Okay.
Yeah, that's where we live. Exactly.
Nice.
Cactus, a lot of fruits and a lot of different trees and different herbs. Right now, I'm actually in the caravan in the forest. We put a caravan here where I do a lot of calls and people rent this for individual retreats and stuff.
So you bought a piece of land?
Yeah, we bought a piece of land with a house on it, an old house, and we're fixing it all up, and we'll be opening officially in the spring of 2025. Okay. Yeah, right now we're still. I mean, people are welcome to stay here during a pre-opening phase, but it's not completely ready yet. There's a few structures that are built yet, things like that. Because we'll be having like themed retreats and things like that in the spring that people can kind of sign up for as well.
Cool. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
And, so what's the plan there? Like, what kind of activities are?
So we have a few retreats coming up. We have one of them's going to be a cannabis wellness retreat. What we do is in Canada it's legal, but here it's not yet, right? It's not something that. But it's a plant, as you know, it has a lot of different uses, and people don't really use it the right way. They'll kind of like, for me, cannabis has always been something very kind of healing, kind of like a ritualistic plant, right? Where it brings you to another place and kind of gets into. So the idea is to have a retreat to kind of have that kind of vibe here with people and kind of teach them a little bit about it and how to use it, and we can take it as an oil or as a tincture. I mean, you all know that, but people here sometimes don't. So the idea is to do that. So that's one of our retreats we'll be having in the spring.
Okay. Are you into meditation and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Meditate. Yeah, I meditate a lot. Also,
what kind?
I keep things really simple. I always say, if you can close your eyes and be quiet for 10 minutes, you can meditate. Everybody has a room. Everybody has eyes they can close. That's all I do. I put some music, or I just close my eyes and do that.
There's no. Is there a retreat where it's like
meditation? We kind of included in a lot of them. We have also another retreat, which will be more a writing retreat that I'm running in the spring. For people, but again, it doesn't have to be for writers. It's just using writing as a way to kind of like just get things out or discover things. Like, people write, just things come out, right? So just writing for the purpose of writing. We'll have a performance retreat as well. My partner was an actress, so Plus, also, you don't have to be an actor though. You just go up there and say something, and there's all these exercises you can do to kind of like. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah, we're also want to do things for couples. That's another thing we discovered over the years, where we've kind of as a couple, we've really kind of evolved as well, the way we were, and we don't do things the same way. And we can do a retreat for couples to come here and learn different ways of being together and kind of that kind of thing. So that'll be really interesting as well. And then individual retreats, team retreats for companies too. I think that's often thought of kind of like a corporate thing, but I think differently. I think the teams you're with these people every day for 5 days a week. Like this is like more than your family. You have to get along with these people. And always found that when I walk into an office, everybody hangs their personality at the door and does their job. And I always thought that was kind of weird. So imagine coming with your colleagues, getting to know them better. I don't know any manager that wouldn't think that's a good idea. That wouldn't think that's a bad idea. Sorry. The closer the people are, the more they collaborate. So that's another thing we'll be doing.
Yeah, trips always bond you, right? Like when you go on a
you
trip
get it.
with somebody, it's like it's almost for life sometimes, right? Like
Yeah, but what's interesting, you also need that awareness to scoop it up and absorb it, right? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find that, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, for example, one of our friends, Marlene, like, she's really good at like, hey, memory bank, press record and scoop it in, right? And just by doing that, you're like, wow, I really am really, really, really taking it all in, right?
Yeah.
And I find that's a really good thing to do. And just
Absolutely.
be aware.
Yeah, just see what's going on. And but when you're in your life, it's hard to do that sometimes, right? That's what I was saying. When you leave and you see things differently from either traveling or just doing things, a retreat, you're just shaking things up a bit, you get all this insight, And the thing is, what do you do when you get back into your life, though? How do you apply it? What do you do, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you, how do you apply it?
Good question. Well, for me, I have to say it's writing always. It's writing, and it's just deciding what you want to do and having a vision. What do you want to do? What do you want? What's your purpose? What do you want to do? And often when you travel, what's so powerful, you say, wait a second, I don't want to work in human resources anymore. And you go and you just do it, right? But you need kind of a plan. And then that's when meditation becomes really useful. You just close your eyes and you visualize, you stick to your things, and then your body will follow, right?
Oh, what I wanted to say was, like, telling us about your experience to me it sounds so courageous, because I can't imagine uprooting my family and traveling across the country, and then it's
across
just
the world,
because you're used to that sense of safety. Almost, it's very safe. You get used to your surroundings, and then if you're uprooting yourself by yourself, or it's more complex with your family because then you have the kids, right?
Yeah, I think one of the philosophies I like to think about it sometimes is that if you I try to like let nature be, right? This whole retreat center, I'm trying not to interfere too much. And I kind of apply that to my life too. Like, I don't interfere too much in my own life. My life just kind of happens, and I trust it, and kind of go along with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. Like I'd probably the same thing to my relationship with my partner. It evolves the way it evolves. Same with my children. I don't interfere too much. They are who they are, and I just let it evolve. And I don't make that many choices. Just things happen, and I follow them. And I'm really scared most of the time. And I think that when you're courageous, you just kind of do things when you're scared, right? So that's kind of the way it works for me, anyway.
You grow so much from it, though. Eh?
Yeah, right. Anytime you do something that's on your comfort zone, you get up to another. You evolve, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I just try to let things flow, and I try to trust my life. Like, kind of, I was like, oh, I don't know about this one, but I trust it's always worked in the past, and it'll work this time, right? So and that's been really a nice, kind of fun way to live life, right? I've been living like this for 25 years or so.
And you've experienced so many adventures along the way.
Yeah, and then things I never thought I'd do, and they're not done. Like,
the road less traveled.
And things don't work out often, and that's also life saying it's not for you, right? And when sometimes you feel like you're fighting with life, then it's because you are. It's not rocket science. You're not supposed to be doing that. Like, if it's super hard and you're fighting, and stop. It's not the right thing, right? That's another lesson. Or else you're gonna get or else you get sick, or something like happened to me, right? I was at the UN. I was working like an animal. Like, I was working every night on the weekends. I wasn't happy there, and just kept fighting until my body said, no more, you're done. And then I had to rebuild. But yeah, I mean, courage for me is just doing things when you're scared, pretty much. That's the way I boil it down to that.
Do you have any advice for people who want to leave their country and sell everything and
yeah, well, I more than sell everything, I'd say anybody who wants to do something that you really want to do and not sure about, well, I would say be sure about it, and you have one life, and trust that one life. You're here for a reason. Trust it. If you have something you really want to do, it's because you're supposed to do it, right? And then life will guide you from there. I mean that, and the thing with visualization too. Every time we want to make a book or an album, I write on the fridge, make album. I just chuck on the fridge, and I see it every morning. And then my body's just gonna follow. Like I'll pick up the guitar and I'll just start writing. Or if I say open retreat center, we just stuck there, Mantanya, Magica, and we're doing it because I have no choice. And it's just my body's following it. I just find myself doing it. So yeah, do what you want to do, and then just visualize it and nurture that seed. Like see it and feel it, and who am I with, and what does it smell like, and what does it feel like, and then keep going. Even if you don't do it right away, just see yourself there, and at some point you'll be there. It's just the way it goes.
That's really, really cool.
So I learned all these things. I learned how to meditate. I learned how to do more yoga, and just the fact of I always said that when I was sick, I kind of had this like breakaway from my body, like this. I didn't know, like I didn't take care of myself. Like I would just eat and think, well, whatever, I'm just gonna eat, right? Or I would exercise, but I wouldn't exercise in a good way. I'd exercise like to get anger out, or I wasn't exercising. Like now when I run, like when I feel the steps, I try to move different ways. I feel my bones, I feel my knees, right? Whereas before, so I really had to get to know my body again, and I tried all kinds of things when I was there. I tried Reiki, and I tried all these different things that really, really kind of work, and kind of took charge of my health, because when it's your body, it's nobody else's. You can go to the doctor as many times as you want, but the doctor doesn't know who you are. Nothing against doctors. I go to the doctor too, but you're in charge of your health, right? And that was really the main message for me, was that this is my body. I got this one body. This is my space suit for this life, right? I got to take care of it. I only have one of them. I mean, if I had just one car for the rest of my life, I'd probably really take care of it, right? So this is it. This is my body.
That's a great analogy, eh?
Yeah, right. So
especially as we all get older too, eh? So.
Exactly. I'm at a certain age now too, where things don't work like they used to. So I really feel like, so the ashram was an amazing experience. It completely blew my head, heart, everything open. And I'll admit that when I got out of there, I was a little bit spaced out. Like I remember losing my wallet. I remember like just stuff would happen, because I was just out of it. So the thing is, you need to kind of take these things, these tools, and live, right? There's a lot of people down the ashram, beautiful people who stayed there for super long, and that's great, and want to live there. But I think that the real tests and the real things are to live your life with these tools. Like imagine, I'll give you another analogy. Imagine you go to IKEA, you buy the instructions for a chair, and you just read instructions over and over, and you never build the chair. It's no use, right? So same thing when I went to the ashram. I had all this knowledge, all this information, all these tools, and I said, I want to live my life, and I really want to go into life and live it at my fullest, knowing all the stuff that I learned, right? So that was really useful. That's probably one of the most powerful experiences of my life. But it happened because I got super sick. So you never know what's going to happen in your life when life hands you things like that. Like you got to look at it as always a learning thing. And when I look back at all these crazy things I've done, they've always kind of lined up and had an effect that brings me something new and everything. Like, oh, that's why that happened, or that's why that happened, right?
So I gotta ask, right?
Yeah.
With that mindset, how much does just having a positive outlook play in that whole thing?
Well, I'm lucky that I grew up in a really, really optimistic family. I think that's also kind of like a genetic thing, where I'm just a really positive person, and that helps me, right? Also, it can be kind of detrimental, because I sometimes will not calculate the ill effects of things. But I think that, there's nothing. Yeah, I mean, that for me, what it taught me more than being positive is to just be in a situation and just feel it out, right? So if something happens, I just got to feel it and say, oh, I'm sad right now. I'm just going to accept it. Or I'm doing a presentation somewhere, I'm just saying, you know what, I'm nervous right now. I'm nervous, and that's accepted. When you accept something, it kind of goes away. Like it doesn't stick around anymore. I think when we get stressed out is when we have something happen to us we don't want it to happen, or somewhere we don't want to be there. Like I just spent the last 2 days in an amusement park with my kids. I don't want to be there all the time. Absolutely not. So sometimes I said to myself, well, here I am. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm not here. I'm here. And I got to deal with it, right? I mean, it's an amazing experience. Don't get me wrong, but But I think, yeah, so positive outlook is great, but I don't think a forced positive outlook helps anybody, right? It's good to, wherever you are, to feel it where you are, to really feel things out and say, I'm frustrated, or I'm really happy, or this is amazing, or that's what that taught me more than anything. That was a really good question. Good question.
Like real authenticity. That's
exactly,
how I hear that, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you're always being yourself, you're always just feeling out what's happening all the time. It's hard to get stressed or fall into difficult traps, right?
Right on.
Totally.
Kids are good too. They kind of ground you,
Yeah, best teachers, man. Kids are the best teachers. Yeah, I have 2 kids. Yeah, they're excellent teachers, and they'll put their finger right in the wound, black.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then you have to that's a good one to feel too. Like, oh, you got me again.
You got me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I was best teachers. Yeah. You can say whatever you want, but you can go to any ashram, read any book. Children will teach you the best things in life. Yeah.
Mark, I have a question for you because you traveled a lot. You traveled a lot, and I know that you speak French and English.
Mm-hmm.
You need probably mostly Italian too. Any other languages that you picked up? Like you went to, Germany. You're in Madrid. You went to different places. So
yeah, I speak Spanish and Catalan. So the thing with living in Barcelona is nobody knows that the official language is actually Catalan, which is the language of the province here. It's like going to Quebec and thinking they speak English, right? So people here speak Catalan. So when I moved here, I had to learn Spanish and Catalan. Yeah, I spoke Italian when I was young a little bit, and French helps.
So it helped.
French helps too. French is a huge help.
Yeah.
French is so hard that if you can speak French, you can speak any romantic language.
That's true.
My Italian neighbor, because I'm surrounded with Daisy with the Spanish and her family more than my Italians. So when I speak to my neighbors, they're 2 Italians, and I start speaking, they're like, "Bud, you're switching to Spanish," because like it's so common with the French,
so close.
English, and then you got Italian, and then you Spanish, and then the wife and the family, and then I'm like start speaking to them in Italian, and then it's like I'm switching to kind of like Spanish and French into there, and they're like, "Bud, like."
Isn't that fun though? I mean, I think that's great. I think that's a good thing. You can switch languages. It's becomes something like in Canada, people speak French and English. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, it's. I mean, I think every language also you associate a personality with it a little bit too. It's interesting as well. Like my partner always says, when I speak Catalan, I'm really sweet. French, a bit more serious. It's a whole other thing. But languages are it's super important, right? I mean, when I'm here, I feel Canadian. When I'm in Canada, I feel European. So that's just the way it goes, right? Yeah, it's amazing. It's also Canada. Like, it's such a diverse country. I regret not visiting Canada more. Like, it's a beautiful country.
So huge. When you think
that's
about
amazing.
It.
Yeah, like Stanley Park.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh,
so much energy. Like if I go to Vancouver, I have to go to Stanley Park.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm obsessed. The tree.
And we always hug one tree, right? So me and Daisy, we go and hug a tree, but I mean, of course, you're just like tiny like this compared to the trees, right? But it's just to be there, and you feel it moving because of the wind, because they're so massive, right?
It's incredible.
And you feel the energy. It's just grounding yourself to the ground. It's awesome.
Oh, the West Coast is amazing. It holds over the whole rainforest. It's wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Cool. So, Mark, where is it you want to travel that you have not traveled to yet?
I'd like to go to Africa, I think, and
I'm pretty close.
Yeah, and I really like
Morocco.
Morocco's
right there.
I really like to go to the Middle East because a few years back we did a DNA test, and my family's all from the Middle East actually. So I like to. My ancestors are all from So I'd love to go there and just see how we feel. Like, I have a dream. I've never been to the desert. I'd love to go to the desert. I love deserts. I love it. There's something about it. It's like another planet. The desert, and maybe also Japan and things like that. I like to go. Yeah.
Yeah, Asia looks interesting.
Yeah, I went to China last year. It was an amazing experience too. But more farther east even. Yeah.
How long did you go there for?
I was there for about 5 days. I was there for work, so a lot of time. Yeah, but it's super welcoming people. Everybody, people invited me for tea and to eat, and people I went off into a neighborhood where they never saw a lot of people from the West. People were like touching my beard and super it was amazing, and like posing for pictures. It was really, and really, really nice. Yeah.
You are a novelty.
Yeah, it shows you that you can never tell because we get such bad rap with China, but they're the nicest people, the most generous people I've never met. Like
Jeff Armstrong? Remember?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He lived
So
in China
cool.
for years, and
Yeah.
I want to get him on the podcast one day to talk
Yeah,
about
he's
China,
just
because
guy,
that's what he says the
Yeah.
same thing that you're saying.
So
He's like,
nice.
it's like it's great over there. Like whatever they
Yeah.
say in the media, don't believe it. It's
Yeah,
like
it's amazing. It's an amazing
just
place.
propaganda.
Super nice people. The thing is, what I get offended about often is when they say like things like Iran attacks Israel. It's not true. It's the government that attacked the government. The people are not just living their lives, right? Same thing in China. Like the people are just so nice. Like they have nothing bad to say about anybody, you know. And people would ask me, I went to a tea house and they'd ask me like, what do you know about China? I tell them and I say, well, what do you know about North America? You know, and then they tell me and then kind of compare notes, and you know, it's just that's just traveling, right? When we got here, I worked as I worked with mayors, doing communications for them. So I would travel to different places and do communications for different city mayors. And we had to go to China. I was with an organization to work with the mayors of Chengdu, which is where they have the pandas, and we were working with them for a bit. That's why I went to China. Yeah, it was really cool, really interesting. I got to see the pandas, and I got to see like all this stuff. Yeah,
that was before your.
It was before we bought the property. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, to make some quick money for a year, so I did that. Yeah.
So now you're doing the retreat full time now.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
You know,
yeah,
you're like, you know, you're basically checked out, going off grid.
Yeah, I'm here, and we're building this, which really means building. Like I'm building cabinets and
so cool.
Like really like in it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, spring is going to be opening. I'm super looking forward to it. To be honest,
I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's about an hour from Barcelona. It's actually in the wine region called Penedès. It's where they make all the wine and all the cava. You know what cava is? It's like champagne from Spain. Okay, so we live in the cava region. So the biggest cava makers are just down the street. We live in this cava, and then there's a little mountain with a forest. We live there. There's like wine tasting and stuff.
A little village you live in? I saw it.
No, not even. Like it's
not even.
We have a group of people here that we go to somebody's house and we help them out. So I got to make a lot of friends that way. Yeah. So like, but some people have like these wild places. Like one guy has like 40 goats. One guy has like all these olive trees, like picking olives. Another guy has like, you know, so all these things that you got to do. Us, it's always the same, like help us build stuff. Right. But that's been cool to meet people, like to really meet people and get to know people and like,
yeah. Wonderful.
It's like a different way of doing things.
Yeah, it's a totally different way. Yeah.
Well, it's like, why does it have to be money? You could just here. I got like 3 loaves of bread. Give me a few of your carrots and shit like that, right? So,
exactly,
or can I get one of your wild turkeys? You know, do a trade, which is awesome. And I think it's a lost art of communication between people and between humans that metropolitan and cities are not doing, right?
Yeah, but you can do it in the city though. You can. I mean.
Yeah, I'm still doing it with my neighbors. I still give them. I gave them a loaf of bread the other day, and I had too much of it. And then the other day, she came over with a whole bunch of like coriander and some parsley, some basil. I'm like, perfect. Like this is exactly what I need to make my pasta, you know, or my salsa.
You do it informally, like our neighbor. You're right. The neighbor across the street has a cherry tree, and she's like, you know, come and pick the cherries. We got buckets of cherries. And then when we had our plum harvest, I'm like, grapes. And grapes, I'm like, you go bring her some. Bring her some plums.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the best.
It's
you feel good. You feel good after.
You do feel good. Thank you. Yes.
It's a good message to spread for sure. One last question before we do rapid fire, unless somebody else has another question. But how do you like Spain?
I love Spain. I came here when I was 20. More. Yeah, I came here after I graduated from university. My dad said, "I'll buy you a gift," and I said I wanted either to become a video maker back then or travel. So I'll buy you a camera or buy a ticket to Europe. And back then, cameras were super expensive, like $1,500 for you know. And I said, "Buy me a plane ticket." I don't know. Thank God, because Or who knows, maybe a filmmaker. But and I ended up, and then my dad, he had all these points accumulated from his travels. So he said, he was on the phone and he goes, "There's only Madrid. Is that cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine." I went to Madrid, and then I took a train to Barcelona, and I just fell in love with Barcelona. I loved it. I stayed forever, and fell in love. And thing has always been a city where things happen for me here. I really feel confident, and the weather is good, and I just love it. I feel good here.
It's international too, right?
Yeah, it's international and
feel.
And I've been to London, and I wanted to love London, and it just didn't work. It's one of those things that just did not work. I tried London so many times, jobs, internships, and it never worked. I couldn't do it.
Tough country.
Yeah.
So Marc, I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
With the whole open-minded mindset of, putting yourself out there, putting yourself forward, a lot of stuff in the food nowadays muddies up the brain. So I was gonna ask you, like, what are your regular things that you usually eat, or foods that you avoid?
That's a good question. So we try to. That's another thing I learned when I was not well, is that the food you put, like, it's your fuel, right? So it depends how you want to perform, like a car. Like, if you want to perform well, you got to put good fuel in it. So what we do, we're lucky we have a lot of rooms. We have a lot of gardens here. That's another thing, that we weren't amazing gardeners when we started, but we're getting better. And I think a gardener has to kill a lot of things to get better at it, right? So
it's a science. It's like a whole science, gardening and all that, right?
But the key is to grow things that match your environment and match your, like, I would never eat a mango in November. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Your body's not supposed to have mango in November. So we eat a lot of that. Another part of it is we eat meat as well. And I trade a lot with the hunter here. There's hunters in the region. So we eat like wild boar and deer and things like that as well, because it's part of this environment. So not too much meat, but some meat, right? So we don't eat much packaged things. I quit that a while ago when I was sick. So anything, if I don't know where this is from or how it was made, I usually don't eat it. So we make a lot of our own things, and that's another whole other learning, like, pardon me, buying things in bulk and making things and being creative and trading with just a bunch of rural people we trade with here. Somebody who's got milk, we've got beans, trade, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, wow. Things like that. Somebody's got goats, and that's just, it's community building as well, right? You build a community, you get to know people, and you can do that in a city. I don't know why people don't do this. Like, everybody's can do something. Like, Andre's a video editor. You can trade video editing for a haircut. I don't know. I have no idea, but you know what I mean? Like, you can do all these things. Like, but we don't. Instead, we have to go through paper money all the time, which kind of puts a middleman, right? It's a weird, it's a weird one.
You're so right, man. You're so right.
Well, yeah, it's like the old school way, right? The barter, the trade.
And you make friends. You make good friends that way. You trust. You're not going to give people a piece of crap, something that you're proud of. They're going to give you something they're proud of, and you make a friend, and you can do that. We're not fully into that, but we have another good thing too, is you can join consumer groups. So if you're going to buy milk from a farmer, if you're 10 of you are going to buy milk from a farmer, the price goes down, right? So what we do is we band together with people. We buy in big quantities so that the price goes down. And this is a concept here that we learned also. It's called consumer groups. That's another thing.
Right.
Smart.
So yeah, good. I mean, food. Also, the Mediterranean, there's really good food, so it's easier. But in Canada too, I know people who are gardening on their roofs and people who are gardening in greenhouses. You can do it in the city too. There's no excuse, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I like gardening. Yeah. I know Frank does. Frank too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Like, I've started making my own sourdough bread, but I'm also doing my own cold cuts. I'm doing my own stuff like that, dry cured. Everything's dry cured, no nitrates. Cool. It's just salt and seasoning. Like, trying to be as old ways again. Because like you said, what you put in your body is your fuel. Yeah.
Well, food from your garden tastes so much better than.
Oh yeah.
There's no debate, right? Yeah. You ready for some rapid fire?
Sure, go for it.
Quickies. Okay. City or countryside?
Countryside.
Are you a club kind of guy or a concert kind of guy?
Concert now.
Oh.
Okay. Rock or country?
Country.
Rolling Stones or Beatles?
Beatles.
Yeah. Mozart or Beethoven?
Kind of a big repertoire. I like Beethoven better as a person. I say Beethoven.
EU or no EU?
EU. Good one.
Cooking or eating out?
Cooking.
Okay. First thing that comes to mind: Canada,
Family.
United States,
Loud.
EU.
Good one.
EU. Hope.
What do you think of the Dutch?
I don't think about them. I'm just kidding. What do you think about that? Hospitable.
Yeah.
Very hospitable.
AI,
Interesting.
UFOs.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, to be honest, like, I'll be honest with you, because I live so far out, I've thought that this would be the perfect place to get abducted by some foreign species. Someone can think, no, I'm not kidding. Someone walking in the field, I'm like, you know what, now something will come down and grab me and bring me back up. So I'm gonna say maybe for UFOs.
Yeah, we all want to believe, but yeah.
Mm.
I'm gonna go. There's one I missed, but I want to do it now. Piano or guitar?
Oh man. You know what? Right now, I'm really into the piano. I'm gonna say piano. At this point in my life.
Favorite cuisine?
Japanese.
Your favorite musician?
Oh, come on. I'm gonna say Pink Floyd, just because they've been around with me for my whole life.
That's cool.
Good one.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your comfort food?
Pasta.
Your superpower?
Intuition.
Your paradise? What makes you happy?
A hammock. Anywhere. Yeah. Good hammock.
Yeah. That's it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Let me know what you want me to do to promote it. Then I'll do whatever you need. I'll do whatever you need.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll share, like, subscribe.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so if you'd like to come in for a retreat, the retreat center is called Muntanya Magica. You can put in the show notes if you want. And the band is called Mantranima, Mantranima. My voice is going, guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna let you go.
We'll let you go. Thank you so much again. Like,
too.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. I can talk to you guys forever. But honestly, come if you want. You're welcome here.
We'll meet again for sure.
We'll meet again. We'll do a follow up for sure.
Right on. I'd love that. Thank you.
Take care, Mark.
Bye.
Thank you, Mark. Have a good night.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Bye.